Months, maybe even since the day she moved in, but I never allowed myself to admit it. Not until now, her hand slid lower and I shivered at her touch, feeling the cool air against my skin as she slowly peeled off my shirt. She took her time, savoring every moment, as if she was unwrapping a gift she had been waiting for, and maybe in a way she had been. You don't need to hold back. She whispered, her lips brushing against my neck, sending shivers down my spine. I know you've wanted this just as much as I have. I couldn't speak, couldn't think. All I could do was react. My hands moving almost instinctively to her waist, pulling her closer, she smiled. A satisfied, knowing smile, as if she had been waiting for me to make the first move. Her hands tangled in my hair and she kissed me again. This time deeper, more passionate. The world outside the garage ceased to exist, and it was just her and me caught up in the moment. Her dress slipped down her shoulders, revealing the 0651 smooth skin beneath. And I found myself captivated by her, every inch of her. She was so much older than me, but that only seemed to heighten the intensity of the moment. The forbidden nature of what we were doing. I knew it was wrong, but at the same time I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. She led me to the old couch in the corner of the garage, the one I used to sit on when I needed to clear my head. Now it was the stage for something entirely different. She sat down, pulling me with her, her eyes never leaving mine. This stays between us, she murmured, her lips inches from mine. No one needs to know, it's just you and me. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest as I leaned in to kiss her again, our bodies pressing together in a way that felt both wrong and incredibly right. Every kiss, every touch was like adding fuel to a fire, and the more we gave in, the harder it was to pull away for what felt like hours. We stayed there, wrapped up in each other, lost in the intensity of the moment. It was as if time had stopped and nothing else mattered. Not my dad. Not the consequences, not anything but the way her body moved against mine, the way she whispered my name. But eventually, reality began to creep back in the sound of a car pulling into the driveway, jolted us both out of the moment, and we sprang apart, our breath ragged, and our bodies still trembling from the intensity of what had just happened. "Your dad's home," she said, her voice breathless as she quickly adjusted her dress, smoothing it down as if nothing had happened. I grabbed my shirt and pulled it back on my mind. Racing, Linda turned to me, her expression serious now, but there was still a spark in her eyes. "Remember, no one can ever know about this," she whispered. I nodded, still trying to catch my breath, still trying to process everything that had just happened. As she opened the door to the house, she paused for a moment, looking back at me with a smile that sent another shiver down my spine. "We'll talk later," she said softly before slipping inside, leaving me standing there in the garage alone with my thoughts and the memory of her touch. I stood there for a moment longer, my heart still racing, wondering how everything had changed so quickly. I sat on the edge of the bed, my heart heavy with everything that had just been said, but before Linda could fully walk out the door, she paused for a moment. She just stood there, her hand on the doorknob, as if she was battling with herself. Then slowly she turned back to face me. Her expression softened, and instead of the finality I had felt a moment ago, there was something else, something hopeful. "Look," she started, her voice tender now. "I meant what I said about this being complicated, but that doesn't mean it was wrong. I wasn't expecting. This wasn't expecting to feel this way." She stepped back toward me, sitting down next to me on the bed. Closer. This time I've been fighting it, too, trying to ignore it. I looked at her, searching her face. "Then why does it have to end like this?" She gave a small smile, her eyes twinkling with something lighter, softer. "Maybe it doesn't," she whispered. "Maybe it's not about what can't happen, but about what we need to figure out together." There was a moment of silence as we both absorbed the shift in the conversation. I could feel the tension starting to ease between us, replaced by something more natural, more honest. Linda reached out gently, taking my hand in hers. I don't want to lose whatever this is between us, she said softly, but we have to be careful. We have to go slow. I don't want to hurt anyone, especially not your dad. But I don't want to pretend this didn't happen either. My heart lifted. Maybe it didn't have to be all or nothing. Maybe there was a way for us to explore what we felt without it being the end of everything. So what do we do? I asked, cautiously, hopeful. She smiled that warm, inviting smile of hers and squeezed my hand. We take our time. It was a Saturday afternoon, just like any other. I'd been tinkering around in the garage for hours working on my bike. I'm 20 now, living with my dad after he got remarried to Linda, a woman almost 3 times my age. Linda's 60, but you wouldn't know it by looking at her. She's full of life with this elegance that you just can't ignore. I had no idea that this day would be anything but ordinary. As I was tightening the last bolt, I heard the door from the house to the garage creak open. I didn't pay much attention to it, probably just Dad coming to check on me, I thought. But then I heard her voice, soft yet commanding. "Hey, you're spending a lot of time in here," Linda said as she stepped into the garage. I glanced up, and there she was, standing in the doorway. She was wearing a light dress that clung to her body in ways that made it hard to ignore. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled as always, but what caught me off guard were her eyes. They were different, almost playful, just finishing up with the bike, I said, wiping the sweat off my forehead with my arm. I tried not to stare, but there was something about her presence that just drew me in. "You know," she said, walking toward me, her heels clicking against the concrete floor. "I never really come down to the garage, but I was curious what you were up to." I laughed nervously. "Yeah, not much to see here, just tools and grease." She smiled, that warm smile that always seemed to brighten up the room. But today it felt more intense. She leaned against the workbench just a couple of feet away from me. "You've been working so hard lately. You deserve a break." Don't you think her words hung in the air, and suddenly the garage felt a lot smaller? I could feel her gaze on me, and for the first time I didn't feel like she was just my dad's wife. There was something else going on, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. "Maybe," I muttered, trying to keep my voice steady. I turned back to the bike, pretending to tighten a bolt that didn't need any more work. "You don't have to be shy around me." "You know," she said, her voice softer now. I felt her hand on my shoulder, and I froze. Her touch was light, almost tentative, but it sent a shiver down my spine. "You've grown up so much," she whispered, her fingers trailing down my arm. I swallowed hard, my heart racing. "Linda, shh," she said, stepping closer, her body brushing against mine. "It's okay." Her hand moved up to my neck, and before I could say anything, she leaned in and kissed me. It was soft at first, but then she deepened it, her lips warm and insistent. I couldn't think, couldn't process what was happening. All I knew was that I wasn't pulling away. Her hands moved to my chest, sliding under my shirt, her fingers tracing the muscles. There, I felt like I was in a dream, and part of me didn't want to wake up. "Linda, we shouldn't," I whispered against her lips, but she just smiled, her green eyes locking onto mine. "Why not?" she asked, her voice teasing. "Your dad's out for the day, and it's just the two of us." Her fingers toyed with the hem of my shirt before pulling it off over my head. I was breathless, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. I didn't understand, but her touch, her kisses, they were intoxicating. She pushed me back against the workbench, her lips trailing down my neck, her hands exploring my body with a confidence that left me powerless. "We've got plenty of time," she whispered as her lips found again, her kiss more urgent. Now I didn't know how we got here, how things had escalated so quickly, but in that moment none of that mattered. It was just me and her, the world outside the garage fading away as the tension between us built with every touch, every kiss. Her lips pressed against mine, soft yet hungry, as if we had both crossed some invisible line that neither of us could step back from. The garage seemed to close in around us, the air thick with tension. Her hands roamed my chest, her fingers tracing every curve and muscle as if she had been waiting for this moment. I could feel the heat between us, growing a magnetic pull. I couldn't resist, Linda. I whispered again, but this time there was no hesitation in my voice. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before. Desire, pure, undeniable desire. She moved closer, pressing her body against mine, and I could feel her warmth through the thin fabric of her dress. Every touch of hers made my pulse race faster. Every brush of her skin against mine made me want more. It wasn't just the physical closeness. It was the electricity in the air, the unspoken connection between us, that had been there all along but never acknowledged. "I've seen the way you look at me," she whispered, her lips grazing my ear. "Don't think I haven't noticed." I swallowed hard, feeling my heart hammering in my chest. She was right. I had tried to ignore it, push those thoughts away, but now there was no denying it. I had been drawn to her for